Hi, Don.
Hi.
Where are you living now?
On the home place.
How many years have you lived there?
Starting one. Yeah, in 1939 we moved there, and I've been there all except for the year and a half I was in the service.
And you and your boys run the place now.
Yeah, Henry and I are there now.
And at one time you and Harold were in partnership there?
For 10 years.
10 years? And so your boys, that's been home to them all their lives.
Yeah, they were all born and raised there.
And earlier today you were telling me of some of the stories Dad told you about when they first bought the old home ranch and where the buildings were and things. Could you tell us that again?
Well, when they bought it, the house was out in the middle of the field there, and right where our house sits, there was a 100-cow barn there. The barn that is our feed barn now originally was the horse barn, and they built onto that and made it into a cow barn. But I don't know, the house, Dad said he hauled the lumber from Newburgh with a horse and wagon and brought it over the ferry across the Eel River, and I think he said $3,500 was what the house cost to build in those days. You spend more than that remodeling a room now.
And about what year was the house finished?
Well, around 1914, as close as I can figure.
So after all that work, Grandpa Petrati didn't get to spend many years there, did he? By 1917 he had moved.
No, I guess he didn't live there very long. No, not as long as I did.
So maybe that's a good reason why it's Giacomini Lane and not something else after all these years, the entrance to your place.
That cost us. I mean, we had to pay for that part.
Well, a little publicity never hurts. And how many head of cattle do you run on the ranch now?
More than we'll hold. We got about 200 head of dairy cattle, and then we've got, 14 beef now, 15 beef.
About what year was the Grade A barn put on the ranch?
1952.
And that's when you and Harold were there.
Mm-hmm.
So as compared to some of the other dairies in the valley, that's always been a rather updated dairy ranch between houses and barns and dairy barns compared to some of the ones that still have old facilities, isn't it?
Well, we've always been kind of modern.
When Dad was on the ranch, what hill property around the area did he also own and use for livestock?
Oh, we just had that place up in Buzzard's Peak that we ran our pasture stock on, and a few head of beef, steers.
About how many acres were out there at the time?
Oh, that was 410, I believe.
And then he sold that to the Wrigley brothers, was it?
Yeah, he offered it to us, but we thought we didn't want to cut brush all the time, so we let Wrigley's have it, and the brush all grew into timber. They made all kinds of money, and we ended up with nothing.
That hindsight is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then maybe you would have been too busy cutting brush and never would have got the timber to grow. Who knows?
Yeah, we cut a lot of good timber up there as brush. That was a mistake, too, I guess. Wrigley's had to sacrifice for that.
When you were smaller, are there some stories about the family that you could share with us?
Well, we were always kind of mistreated. I mean, I can remember when when the county cleaned up for TB, and they took most of Dad's herd out there just before Christmas, and there was a nice little square present under the Christmas tree for each one of us younger boys, Hap and Ern and I.
The three little boys, right?
No, younger.
Younger. Well, we were the three little girls.
Grandma had all kinds of stories about that box, what they were. Oh, they were musical instruments, they were this and they were that. Come to find out, Christmas Eve, all was in those stupid things was a wire brush to clean the barn walls, because we had to completely clean the barn walls and whitewash it, and there was a wire brush for each one of us. Grandma don't remember that.
I think I understand what you
that.
remembered.
Yeah. And then they'd give us boots once in a while for Christmas. And gee, living there by the river, you had to try your boots out in the river, and we always ended up, they were short boots. I mean, you didn't have to go very deep to go over the tops. We always lost our boots.
I can remember the year figuring out who Santa Claus was by the boots they were wearing. John was famous for being late after he moved to Eureka, But I think there was a reason for him being late that year. It was his boots that were on Santa Claus. That was right when the war started, and suddenly we were going to have Santa Claus, and Mom went through the kitchen and pulled out a box of Jell-O for me and an orange for someone else and a roll of toilet paper for someone else, and Santa Claus had presents to give to everyone at the last minute. But what about the years at Alton? You were born at Alton, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, which house at Alton were you born in?
The old red house.
I'm learning the names of these old houses since I was the last one born over there, and that house is still standing. All the others are gone now that we're over there.
No, the old red house, that was the first, it burned down.
But I mean, then the one we lived in before we moved burned down later too.
That burned down later, you know, that.
Yeah, the one that they moved the old cabin down there and built onto it, and it burned down, you know.
Any memories about what it was like to have Si around as a hired man and sort of an extra member of the family?
Well, he probably filled us in more on the birds and bees than Mom and Dad ever did. we were pretty well educated on that, working with him. And
He was your
that
Sex
was an
1A educator, huh?
That was always an experience, but he was a good old fella.
I
He
can
treated us
remember,
good.
thanks to the nuns praying for him once. When we were in grammar school, the nuns told us, now if you ever hear anyone cussing or swearing, say a prayer for them. And I was on the back porch at the ranch, and down in the field, something wasn't going wrong, and I heard Si cussing, and I said a prayer for Si, like the nuns told us. I remember, were you around when Lucille used to try and curl his hair with the syrup after dinner at night? She heckled him more than any of us, I think.
It didn't impress me that much. I guess I don't remember that
Oh,
part.
tell us about the ritual of you and Harold and Ern sitting behind the table at night, and the usual thing that went on sometime during every meal.
Well, pecking order, I guess you'd call it. The bench was right along the wall, and it was a 4-foot ton and groove wall, and if you wanted something, you had to kind of get attention, so you always kind of elbowed the guy next to you, but you got kind of used to it pretty soon. You knew about when it was coming, and you duck and bang, your elbow would hit against that ton and groove wall, so I imagine that causes probably part of our problems yet, is from hitting that wall with our elbows, but that was just pecking order. I was usually on top, but once in a while I get put down.
You guys, one of the jobs besides running the ranch was making wood for the family in the winter. About how much wood do you know would they stock in each winter for the old wood heater and the stove?
Oh, I don't know, cord-wise, how much we had, but the old woodshed was, about 16 feet by 14 feet and about, 10 feet high, and we filled her clear to the top every winter. Just like, hey, if you had a stack left over, boy, you had money in the bank, but usually there wasn't much wood left over.
What was the procedure of hauling hay when Dad was still on the ranch with you? That was before you baled it much, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, we used the flatbed and they didn't use flatbed so much then. It was more of a V-rack with a hay loader on behind, and if you happened to be hauling hay when the weeding season was on, if you were promoted to driving the team hauling hay, you thought you'd really graduated. You thought you graduated too when you got to drive the team on the derrick or the pickup, but about the first time Dad hollered at you, you wish you was back in the weeding patch. But it was quite an experience. I mean, trying to haul hay with a hay loader with the wind blowing and going crossways to the north wind and holding that hay on there and build a straight load, it was an experience you don't have nowadays, I'll tell you.
Then in the fall, was it, you'd start chopping the hay for the cows sometimes?
Well, whenever we started feeding, we started chopping it, yeah. That was a good dusty job.
And there was usually always a trip over to Fernbridge when you'd start chopping hay. Something always broke, it seemed like. And Mom was always driving over to Fernbridge to get something for Dad. I remember being able to take many a ride over to Fernbridge with her to pick up some part.
Oh, I didn't remember her as a purchasing agent. I got to send my purchasing agent to get all my parts.
Yeah, I think you did quite a bit of purchasing,
I
didn't you,
did. I
Mom?
went many a mile, believe me. I went.
But the best thing for for those old choppers was a gunny sack. Just don't ever let a gunny sack lay around and get into it. That would really tear everything out.
At
I
one
know that happened a couple times.
When you were in high school, were you one of the boys that had chickens for a project for a while, or was that Ern?
Ern and I both had chickens, yeah.
And you built chicken houses on the ranch at that time?
Yeah, along the old cow barn. Remodeled them into calf sheds after we got out of the chicken business. We found out that chickens in high school didn't agree because you got to clean chicken houses, and that was always a Saturday project when the other kids could go to football games and whatnot. We had to stay home and clean chicken houses. So we stuck with it for a few years and then got out of it.
Now, all of you boys made personal and family records in Future Farmers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there's, I guess, what, 4 of us were state officers. Joe was a national officer. All but one of us made American farmer. All of us made state farmer. And then there's been a lot of the nephews that went on to be state officers and national officers and state farmers and American farmers, and I imagine there'll be another generation going on yet too. I don't know if there's ever been I don't know if any of the girls have made state farmers.
I hadn't thought about that.
Which is new now in
Yeah.
FA, yeah. I know Annette won, I think, an outstanding chapter farmer in Ferndale one time. I don't know if Annette made state farmer.
I don't think she did.
Pete mentioned one family in Utah was coming up nip and tuck with the family record. Do you know if they ever joined the family in the same achievements as our family had had?
I don't know if they did or not.
Otherwise, till then, the Giacomini family held that national record, didn't they, for the most sons with the most awards?
I guess they did, yeah, but I don't know if it's anybody else has come on now.
You were in the service when some of the articles appeared in the Farm Journal and things like that about the family, weren't you?
Yeah, I was usually an insert.
Yeah, that's why I remembered you were in the service. This little Joe and Don up in the corner insert. But your honors certainly weren't an insert. You boys all worked hard. How did Dad help set you up with your Future Farmer projects?
Well, we each got to choose our own breed of cattle that we wanted to work with, which is probably more than any of us have done to our own kids. We influenced them what breed we wanted them to go into, but so we ended up with some Jerseys and some Guernseys, and my first one was a Holstein was what I had for a project the first year. Well, she was black and white. I don't know if she was part Jersey or what now. I remember my first calf was a black and white one. Then we bought purebred Guernsey. First one I bought died of pneumonia after about 6 months, and so I had to go find another one. But, he just let us kind of build with our projects and carried them on into our business.
Were you still home on the ranch the time that, I don't know how many cows got bloated and 2 died?
Yeah, that's when, before Hap and I took over from Dad, we were working for Dad then.
Can you tell us about that hectic evening a little bit? Some of the crisis in the farm life?
Oh, I don't know whether about 3 of them died. We tapped, I think, 7 of them, and then we had to get we didn't really just tap them, we just slashed them. Had to get the vet out, and we were sewing cows up half the night that night. And I don't know how we sipped that milk the next day, because it must have sure stunk from that bloat and that bloat medicine.
I remember Harold leaving the table that night because Mother had earlier picked beet greens and cooked them for dinner, and he couldn't take it that night. He left the table.
I don't remember that part of it.
That was since we were kept in the house because it was rather gory.
It was
that part, Harold apologized and left the table that night. The beet greens were more than he could stand.
I don't remember that.
And do you think your sons or at least one of them, hopes to take over the ranch when you're sick and tired of getting up early to milk and all?
Well, we're working that way already. We've taken Henry and Pam in as partners, and so they've got a lot of interest in it, so I'm quite sure
The family ranch will
works
be
out
the
right.
family ranch a
it'll
little
stay
longer.
in the family for a while yet, yeah.
That's kind of nice and fun.
Yeah.
Last year when you had the party for Mother, going back, truly going home to a lot of us in a lot of ways, and it was very good. And I went upstairs, and that was really taking a peek back in history because you haven't had to use it, but it was the old floor covering the same as when the house was built and all. And it was really a fun trip back in time. Thank you for sharing your house with us. And
Well, we're saving that. I mean, when that covering's wore out, we're going to
well,
replace it, but it's not wore out yet.
well, I agree with you. They don't make things like they used to, do they? I think the thing we had the most fun in that house was when Mother was gone. With us three girls, we'd put a blanket down on the stairs and a pillow under our rump and hold the blanket around us, and someone else would pull you down the stairs. Boom, 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 boom. We couldn't do it when Mother was there. There was too much noise. But that was the pastime when she wasn't around. And how many times did you put up with us roller skating around that wood?
Oh, my.
Years of it, and I didn't realize how much noise it was until you were living there once, and one of Elsie's nephews was there and was riding around on a tricycle, and I thought, oh my God, the patience of Job, with 2 or 3 of us roller skating on that wood around there and sounding like a sounding board through the house. It was like living inside of a drum when you do it. So there was a lot of hours spent there, and it's going to be fun coming back again next Saturday night and sharing some more family time.
Well, I hope everybody comes because,
I think there'll be a lot of us anyhow. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of us.
well, it'll be enough to make it fun anyway.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing your time and thoughts with us. We really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. It's Mary Ellen.